Welcome back to the show. It's segment number 3. This is our week 9 picks against the spread. Let's start it off with the ACC. Alan, Pittsburgh at Miami. You know how I feel about coastal division matchups. It's hard to predict. And right now, Pittsburgh is -5. What do you got?
Yeah, like you said, these are really hard to pick. I mean, this smells a lot like the Miami-Virginia game to me, where everybody wanted to pick Virginia. And, of course, Miami came out with the win there. But the fact is, Pittsburgh's an up-and-down team, so it's kind of hard to pick them against Miami. But Miami just lost to Georgia friggin' Tech, okay? Georgia Tech is a terrible team, and matter of fact, a team I believe you said wouldn't win another game this year. And they find a way last week. So give me Pitt -5. There's no way I can take Miami after that one.
I appreciate you bringing up my error there. I was under the impression that Georgia Tech would not win. I didn't think that Georgia Tech would beat Miami, especially in overtime that would need to beat Miami. Pittsburgh, though, they're on a 4-game winning streak. And that 4-game winning streak is over some pretty good teams, including Central Florida. And so I look for Pittsburgh to win this game as well.
Yeah.
Here's another difficult one, and I had conflicting spreads for this. Al, is Syracuse traveling to Florida State? Yahoo is saying that it's off, but then I'm seeing some they're saying -10.5. So I didn't know really where to. I thought I would kind of scratch my head. Why is it off? ESPN's also saying off as well. I didn't think it would be one of those games that would be an off game. Definitely going into the season, you didn't think Syracuse would be the underdog in an off game against Florida State. So I'm really confused with that. But it looks like from the FPI that Florida State is projected to win by a large margin in this game.
Well, are we going to go with 10.5 or are we going to go with off for our pick purposes anyways?
I mean, I have off in here, so let's go with off and make it easier.
We have off. I'm taking FSU straight up here. Syracuse is flat out just a bad team. So is FSU, but they're at home. I'm rolling with the Noles. I've liked some of what I've seen from FSU with the, getting the offense going a little bit. And Cam Akers, of course. I have no choice but to take the Seminoles here at home.
Yeah, I think that Florida State can definitely beat Syracuse at home. They've beaten NC State, and Syracuse wasn't able to beat NC State. If it's straight up, I'm going to go with the Florida State Seminoles as well. On to another, this is a difficult one, a cross-divisional game here. Virginia at Louisville. UVA giving -3.5 right now. And this is a tough one for me because Virginia has lost 2 road games and won 3 home games.
Yep.
But I feel like Virginia's better than Louisville, but they're not very good on the road.
Yeah, and that's a good point, but I think they got back on track a little last week, with shellacking of the Blue Devils that nobody was expecting that. I think the spread was 3 or something like that, or 4 maybe, and they absolutely hammered them. I think their defense can pose Louisville some problems, much like Clemson's did this past week. I think Louisville can score some points, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Give me the Cavs -3.5.
This could be one of those games. It's going to be a trap game out. This is going to be one of those ones where an ACC team was the strong ACC team was supposed to beat the lower-level ACC team, things that the SEC teams seem to do well. This is a game where Virginia could lose, but I'm going to go with Virginia in this case because of the same things you said with them blowing out Duke, which nobody expected. We're talking about Duke. The next game is Duke at North Carolina. UNC giving 4 points to the Blue Devils. What do you think?
Duke +4 at North Carolina. Look, this was a really a toss-up game for me. I kind of looked at this for a while. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I like to take the home teams in these kind of games, but again, this is the Coastal Division, and anything goes in the Coastal Division. So I'm going to take Duke to rebound against the devastating loss to Virginia last week to cover the spread against the Heels.
The Tar Heels have been playing really well. The fact that it is in Chapel Hill means a lot to me. And the Tar Heels have played some really tough teams. If you look at it, Wake, that's a tough team to play.
Sure.
Clemson, App State. Now, let's take Georgia Tech out of the way. But then Virginia Tech in Blacksburg's not an easy game either. And I look for North Carolina to beat Duke, especially after coming off a blowout loss. I think the Tar Heels keep on winning against Duke. All right, so that's the last ACC game. Oh, we didn't include Clemson, so don't jump in the chat and say we forgot Clemson. We're going to talk about them at the very end. But here's our ranked versus ranked teams. We've got some pretty good ones this weekend. Just a couple or a few, I guess, depending on what you say. We have 3, right? So, ranked versus ranked, number 8 Notre Dame at number 19 Michigan. Ugh, I just hate saying that. And Michigan is -2. Michigan is the favorite, -2, bringing in Notre Dame.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Irish in the game, mostly due to my distaste for Michigan and anything Jim Harbaugh. But I just can't this week. I think the Wolverines bounce back from their loss to Penn State and cover against the Irish at home.
I do like what Michigan has done at home. They were able to beat Iowa in a baseball game, basically.
Right.
I watched the Michigan Penn State game because I love the whiteout. I love what they do in Happy Valley. Man, that's a beautiful college football scene. And then they were rocking. They came out like 21-0 in that game, and then Michigan just turned the switch and slowly started to come back. Michigan's wide receiver Ronnie Bell. I mean, Shea Patterson is driving the team down the field. They get within just a couple of yards from a touchdown to tie the game, to take it into overtime. It goes right into his hands and slips through down his forearm to his elbow and out on the ground. He closes his hands so hard that it looked like he was going to break all his fingers, Alan. That's how bad the miss was. Like it hit him perfectly. And I don't want to beat him up too much, because when he went to the sideline, man, he was just boo-hooing, crying about the issue, about missing that really key, decisive play there that didn't tie the game. And so I feel really bad for Bell. But it was nice to see Michigan make a game of it, as I originally thought. I came out early and said, man, Michigan's a joke. Penn State's going to blow them out and get some bogus ranked win. And Michigan did make a game of it. I don't know if it's because Penn State couldn't figure things out defensively, or if it's because Michigan's actually good. And this is one of those games with Michigan at home. I think that they have a chance, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan wins, but give me Notre Dame. If it's a close game like that, which Vegas is obviously coming out in the open on Monday saying it's a close game, or within a field goal game. If it's a close game, I have to go with the more experienced quarterback, and I have to go with Ian Book in that case. I trust him more than I trust Shea Patterson, and so But in the end of the day, road wins are difficult. Michigan's kind of out of the play for the Big Ten, and Notre Dame still has something to fight for. They're hoping to maybe squeak back into the college football playoffs if they can, with continuing to win. And so I'm going to go with Notre Dame plus the 2 in this game. The next one is a big one that we thought it was going to be a big one. We were looking forward to it, and then Wisconsin just lays an egg against Illinois. Number 13, Wisconsin. They travel to Ohio State and play, and Ohio State is -14 in the game. What you got?
Look, Wisconsin, like you mentioned, is fresh off the most shocking upset of the year when they lost on a last-second field goal to a bad Illinois team. Okay, look, assuming Wisconsin still has it in them to be the team we thought they were a week ago, I'm going to take the Badgers as they look for a little revenge against Ohio State, in the Buckeyes' first real test of the year. So I'm going to take Wisconsin to cover. I think Ohio State can pose in some problems with their speed on offense and Justin Fields, but I just got a hunch on this one, and I'm going with the Badgers +14.
For me, Ohio State has dominated everybody. They really haven't played a bunch of people. I mean, you got Northwestern, you got Nebraska, Miami of Ohio, Indiana. Not very impressive, right? But then they do have good wins over Michigan State, and they beat them. And then they've got Cincinnati win 42-0 against a Cincinnati team that is leading their conference. So I think you can't say much about Ohio State being able to score big points. Other than the Michigan State, which was still a 24-point win, they have blown out every single team. Wisconsin, I think, with Illinois, got caught up in looking to the next week, as college football teams typically do. And really, they could have won the game. I'm not going to count Wisconsin out. They still have a chance to make it into the college football playoffs as well. It's going to be one of those big games. I think that Wisconsin's going to come in and be ready to play. I'm going to say Ohio State beats them, man. I think Ohio State has the good combination of passing and running the ball with Dobbins and with Fields. And I think Ohio State obviously has the defense to match their offense. I think this is a big-time statement game that puts Ohio State above anybody, and it'll be interesting because it'll be one of those games where Ohio State beats Wisconsin and still somehow can't get above Alabama in the top 20 or in the top rankings there. They do, at that point, I think they would deserve to be number one compared to Alabama. But I'm going to go with Ohio State in this one. I think they're going to dominate in this game. They have been dominating everybody in the Big Ten. I think they're going to continue to do it. Here's our last game of the top 25 versus top 25. This is a big SEC matchup. Number 9, Auburn, travels to the fake Death Valley. Number 2, LSU, number 1 in my heart right now. But LSU is minus 12 going into Monday right now. Now, we know the numbers can change. By the time you might listen to this, the numbers might change from our Monday night picks. But so just keep that in mind. But number 9, Auburn at number 2, LSU. What's your thoughts going into that game?
Look, I've been high on LSU this year after the first few weeks. Obviously, we've kind of seen that their offense has gone leaps and bounds ahead of where it's been these past few years. They're starting to spread the ball out a little bit, and Burrow has done a great job. So I really like what I've seen from LSU. And Auburn really bit me big time when I picked them against Florida, and Florida was able to really, control that game from beginning to end. I just have a hunch that Auburn is able to keep this a fourth quarter game. So give me the Auburn Tigers to cover in the fake Death Valley this weekend.
I know Auburn's a good team. They're 6-1. Their record looks great. They've only had one loss to Florida in Gainesville, which is a tough environment for sure. They have a great run defense, and they have a high-scoring offense, not really through their quarterback, I don't think, but really through their running back game. Same goes for LSU, has a really high-scoring offense and a really good defense. So it's very similar teams going at each other. The fact is that this is another road game for Auburn, and I think it's going to be tough. It's tough for anybody to win road games. Bo Nix versus Joe Burrow. If the game's on the line, I'm going with Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be a lot like a repeat of the Florida game. I feel like that they're going to kind of match up really well for 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter, LSU is going to take it away and win by 2 touchdowns. So give me LSU minus the 12. So here's the big game. Here's the big game of the weekend. Really for us, it's not the big game for the media for sure, but it's the big game for Clemson fans. Boston College comes to Clemson, number 2 Clemson, or not number 2 Clemson, excuse me, number 4 Clemson now. But number 4 Clemson, yuck, it's hard to say. Ugh, it's hard to say number 4. But number 4 is a special number for Clemson Tigers, so hey, we'll be number 4. Clemson is minus 33.5 as I'm looking right now. BC's coming off a big win against, nobody picked this, but against NC State of all teams. So I don't think anybody in our college football pick'em picked it. What do you think about BC coming in? Can they, do they have a chance? They have a pretty good offense.
Well, look, when I mentioned, you calling out Georgia Tech for not being able to win a game the rest of the year, I wasn't trying to take a shot at you, okay? I was saving that shot for this last pick right here, okay? Boston College is a team I always like to pick, to cover against the spread. Even when the show host yells at me, bad pick, Al, bad pick, okay? They just lost their quarterback, okay? That was last week, okay? That's a little replay from last week. Morgan Thomas, your humble show host, telling me bad pick. By the way, BC rolled in that game against NC State.
I think you were the only person to actually pick Boston College. I think everybody followed me in the case of bad pick. They just lost their quarterback. People on YouTube were saying bad pick. Yep. Alan, I'm just going to be the first one to say that, I'll tell you off the show that I'm sorry.
Yeah, please do. And everybody can get in with your comments as well. I was worried about that one myself, but obviously BC rolled. It was a crazy game for sure. The only thing they have going for them is the run game. And if you can only do one thing, you can't do anything against Clemson because Brent Venables will take it away. All right. I think Venables is going to have a great game plan. As always, give me our beloved Tigers to cover. I have a final score prediction, Clemson 55, BC 10.
55-10. I like that. I think that Clemson's going to be up in the 50s as well, and BC is going to be able to score, but late. We talked about last week, what would Louisville be able to do? Would they come out strong like they had been, or would they fall into that same trap when you play against Clemson where you're just locked down for 3 quarters and then all of a sudden you get a score or 2 towards the end? That's basically what Louisville did. They weren't really able to get much going. Football Power Index has Clemson winning by 98%. I'm going with Clemson to beat BC, and I'm going to clear the points. I think it's another game, just like you said. When you look at it, they should be up in the 45, 50 range, and BC should be around the 6, 7 range. That's the show for this week, and we hope you enjoyed watching, and maybe if you're listening, hope you enjoyed listening. Please check us out over at all social media accounts, and go follow me over on Twitter. I like to say things at Clemson Morgan. But that's it, the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. But as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.